When strawberry mead alone is not good enough, make strawberry hibiscus mead. This was Derica's idea. I think it's nice. I think this is going to work quite well. So, what we're going to do, the first thing that I want to do is a little bit of math. And I'm really sorry because I know some people don't do the math thing or don't like it or can't figure it out. But this is actually really, really simple. And it's a core thing that I think is important to know when recipe building. I asked Derica before we started this, what ABV do you want it to be?
I said 12.
12%. I'm assuming she meant percent.
I did.
Because it could be 12, I don't know.
No,
12,
it's
12 hats, right? Okay, so 12%. Very, very simple. So what happens with that is you go, okay, 12%. We have a couple different ingredients here. The strawberries, don't even worry about the sugars in the strawberries. They're not adding much at all. So if I take 12 and divide it by 131.25, which is the number we use to calculate ABV later, I get 0.0914285714. Now, let's just forget most of that and then add water to it, which water is 1.000. So we just take the 0.091, and we have 1.091 is our target starting gravity. Simple, right?
So we're going to be using honey because this is a mead, and we know that honey in a gallon is
0.035.
For one
pound of honey in 1 gallon of must. So here's the trick to that. I have a 1.09 gravity, right? Divide that by 0.035 tells me I need 2.57 pounds. So I'm just going to use 2.5 pounds of honey because that means with the little bit that we're going to get from the sugars, we're probably going to be right around 12%. Really, really simple. See, we have a list and she asked me how many pounds of honey. I said, I don't know yet. I gotta figure it out.
So 2.5.
2.5 pounds of wildflower honey. Simple stuff. And that is something that we do all the time. We don't always make recipes this way. Sometimes I just let the gravity fall where it may. I say I don't want to go above a certain number. But for this, we wanted to hit a 12% target. That seems to work. And today I'm going to be using Kirkland Wildflower Honey just because we have a lot of it and it's relatively inexpensive. And there's so many strong flavors in this that I don't think an exotic or fancy honey would be necessary. But it's still a good honey. This is a very good quality honey.
We are using a 2-gallon bucket today as a fermentation vessel because of all of these strawberries. We want to have plenty of room.
There's a lot of bulk.
For all the fermentation bubbles and goodness that are going to happen in here.
Without overflowing.
Hopefully still get a full gallon of product when we finish racking at the end.
So that idea that we had earlier where we said it's 0.035 in a gallon, we're going to be making a bit more than a gallon of must here. So we may end up with a slightly lower number, but again, not worried about it. Hitting an exact number of ABV is difficult, even for commercial winemakers.
Sure. When I said 12, I didn't mean 12 on the dot.
She meant no more than 12.
Not 12.5 or not 11.8. No. Just somewhere near 12. That's all I care about.
12-ish.
12-ish.
But probably, usually in Derica speak, around 12, but really no more than 12. But if 12.2, she's not going to be offended.
No.
14 is right out.
All right, so if your scale is like ours and you're going for 2.5 pounds, that's going to read 2 pounds, 8 ounces.
Mm-hmm. All right, so that's it for the scale at this point.
Done with you. Be gone.
I like the scale. I'm used to it.
So back to that full gallon of must, I have a full gallon of warm water over here.
Now, we all know that 2.5 pounds of honey takes up some space too. So I'm probably not going to use the whole thing, but it isn't a full quart used up by the honey. It's something like 28 ounces or so. So I might just go to 100 ounces.
Okay.
Keep in mind, the strawberries are going to give off some liquid too. There's actually some in the bag.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just going to approximate. We used about 90 ounces or so far. So if I'm going to mix this up, I need something to mix it with. And that would be the spattle. It's a spoon, it's a paddle, it's both. Get yours in the description below. Now, our strawberries were frozen. We have 4 pounds of strawberries. Stems, seeds, everything. They're juicing. See? That is actually just defrosting. The cell's breaking. So what happens when you freeze a fruit is the cell walls they lose their structural integrity and they start to fall apart. And that is what we like to see happen when we're using them for fermentation.
But we're going to be using another product as well that's going to help degrade those cells, particularly the pectin in those cells further. And we'll have that and talk about that more later.
Now, one way, actually, we can talk about it right now. One way to use this, it's pectic enzyme. One way to do it is to just put the fruit into a bucket and cover it with pectic enzyme, leave that for like a day, and then put everything together. You can totally do it that way. I'm not gonna bother. We're gonna just front load everything. We're gonna put it all in at the beginning in the must, and that will help break down the pectin as well. Something we learned recently about using pectic enzyme is that it's actually very temperature sensitive, and it needs much warmer than you think it does. Like so warm that the yeast can't actually deal with it. Like it needs warmer than yeast survivable temperatures, which makes it rather complicated to use. So we have warm water here, but it's only like 100 degrees Fahrenheit or so, 102, something like that.
But we also have partially thawed strawberries.
Right. They're still a little bit frozen. That's okay, because you know what? We're just going to live with that. It's all right. I'm not going to boil our must just to make the pectic enzyme a little bit more effective. But it is something to be aware of. In the past, we have done a couple different things. I think we tried one time using Camden tablets over the strawberries. We didn't really like it. It left a funky flavor, which it's possible that's not what it was, but it did it, and it was enough that it made us go, eh. And it was just an extra step that we didn't feel necessary. We have also pasteurized the strawberries or fruit before it goes in. But for strawberries, I think I want that really fresh fruit flavor, so I don't want to pasteurize and potentially cook them. But I think
now, if you saw our strawberry wine video, I'll make sure to link it in the description below in case you didn't. That came out lovely. It was the strawberriest strawberry I've ever strawberried, other than an actual strawberry. So we're hoping that we get a similar sensation in this.
Yes. All right. At this point, we could add our strawberries.
Yep.
We could.
We could. I think we should.
Okay.
Brian had other ideas, but...
Yeah. And everything is still here. The stems, everything. So what I'm going to need you to do, your hands are fully sanitized, correct?
I'm going to sanitize them again.
It's going to be interesting.
This is a full contact sport.
Yep. So she's going to get her hands in there and help the fruit come out, because it's just going to fall otherwise, and that's what you're there for.
I'm here for the frozen things that I love messing with.
Okay, get your hand in there to catch it, because it's going to come out as a big clump.
I got it.
You don't want it to splash all over the place, was the idea. Wow, that went so much better than usual.
Teamwork makes the dream work.
All right, let's see if I can make it to the sink.
Oh, you do... no.
Nah. Okay, at this point, I know a lot of people are asking, why didn't you thaw them? We forgot. Why didn't you put them in the blender? Because you don't need to. You can if you really want to. We like to show many ways to do things, and that gets confused sometimes. People think that that's the only way. No, we never say there's only one way to do things. You can do this a lot of different ways and end up with a fantastic result. Maybe slightly different results sometimes, but in this case, blended fruit is just going to be more messy down the road. Strawberries fall apart anyway, so not really a problem. And every once in a while when somebody says that you have to blend fruit in order to get all the juices out, I like to remind them that the process of decomposing and fermentation came from nature. I don't know that nature has blenders and food processors and juicers. So it may make it a little bit faster, but I don't think it actually changes much in the long run. So that's my story. I'm sticking to it.
Because we already know we have cell degradation due to the freezing process, we're not really concerned. We've added pectic enzyme, which is...
Not yet. We haven't added it yet.
We're going to do that right now.
I'm going to add pectic enzyme right now.
Which is going to continue to aid that degradation. And yeast are microscopic. They're going to get in there and do what they need to do regardless of what we do.
Half teaspoon pectic enzyme. I'm going to mix that through. And what that'll do, we actually have a podcast that we did on this that will break down the pectin in the cell walls a little bit more, getting a little bit more juice out of them. And it also will help in the long run with pectic haze, keeping it from going, it'll help with clarity at the end of it.
Additionally, it should aid in getting more color extracted from the berries, as well as more of their juicy yumminess.
Right. Okay, and then, well, this wouldn't be strawberry hibiscus without hibiscus. But for that, we need something.
Yes. And that something is the rumble jar. It's not just for cold brew anymore. No, it has so many glorious uses. One of them...
You sound like a QVC commercial.
One of them is for dry hopping tea, and that's essentially what we're doing. We're not steeping the hibiscus tea. We're putting it in there dry. Now, it's not going to remain dry because it's going in a liquid, so obviously it's going to extract slowly into that liquid. But because we have it contained in the rumble jar, and we know that hibiscus can be very strong if it's oversteeped, we can remove it when it's appropriate.
Now, somebody's going to ask, why didn't you just make the tea first? Can you do that? Yes, you can. Why didn't we do it? Because that's just another way to do it.
Because, yeah.
We're just showing different ways of doing things. I don't know if that's coming across, but we get these questions a lot. And I'm not angry because, you know, if you don't watch the show all the time, you don't know. But if you do watch the show all the time and you're new and you see different ways of doing things, you may wonder why. And that's a fair question. Sometimes the answer is just because we wanted to do it a different way.
Now, there are advantages and disadvantages to doing it the different styles, and you're probably going to have a slightly different end product depending on which route you choose to do. The advantage of steeping a tea ahead of time is that you can stop it at the exact point. You know exactly how much of that hibiscus tea flavor you're getting from the very beginning.
You have a finite amount of hibiscus flavor being added. Whereas with this method, we have not infinite, but we have a variable amount. So that means we can test this, and when it's just the right amount, we take it out and we're done. And that's why we use the rumble jar, because here's how easy it is to remove the tea. Just like that. Ta-da. That's it. We're not going to do it now, though, because I want it in there.
All right. Did you say how much hibiscus you put in there?
3 tablespoons. I had not gotten to say yet because someone else was talking and I didn't want to interrupt.
Thank you.
Now, we're going to add some yeast.
Since we're adding the yeast to dry, do you want to go ahead and take the gravity reading now?
I can. I don't know why I handed that to you.
I don't either.
By the way, everything that we've been using has been sanitized using Star San mixed to the manufacturer's suggestion. And they've all been sanitized in...
the red bucket of sanitization!
I had to give her longer to set up that time because I think she was drying her hands or something.
Yeah, I would have been spraying sanitizer liquid everywhere.
And it's literally just a big bucket that we mix Star San and water to the manufacturer's suggestion. It's actually taking on some of the color of the strawberries already. I
think it's a combination of the strawberries and the hibiscus tea because
the hibiscus tea is gonna... Yeah, this should be a very vibrant red. Yes, I know we're making a red mead. Sorry.
Shocker.
So, my proposal number was 1.090. We overshot it a little bit, and that is partially why I like to go down slightly. But if you want me to, I can add a little bit more water.
Yeah.
Because right now we're at about 1.096. Do you care?
I don't, but...
It's because I didn't put all the water in.
Yeah.
So just to show you the difference, we'll do it.
You want all of the water?
No, I'll do it.
Right.
I'll take care of it. 1.096. Right there. So that means we used about 96 ounces of the water.
You need to stir it again.
Yep, need to stir it again.
Do you want me to hold the other jar, or are you just gonna?
I'm just playing.
Okay.
By the way, aeration at this stage is totally fine. It's actually a good thing. You want some oxygen in there to help the yeast build their colony up, and then once the oxygen is gone, they can start making alcohol. The strawberries are already starting to fall apart. Now, I estimated how much water I needed. I don't really know. It's probably pretty close, though, and whatever it is, I'm probably just going to go with it. I don't know. 1.092. Now, if you're using a triple scale hydrometer, actually, if you're using everything sanitized, you can just pour that sample right back in. Some people throw that away.
We're not some people.
But if you're using a triple scale hydrometer, and I'm at 1.092, if I put my fingernail right at the line of 1.092 and turn it just a little bit to potential alcohol, I get 12.2. So there you go. Now, I figure by the time we finish this, sweeten it up a little bit with some honey and things, it'll dilute it. We'll end up at 12% anyway. So, what do we got to do with this now?
We got to put the yeast in.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I thought we were done.
I interrupted you.
Yeah. So for our yeast, we're going to be using Lalvin 71B, also known as
The Beast.
And you might be wondering, why are we using that? First, because I had a half packet from another thing that we made. And second, it's actually a really great yeast. We use it a lot. In our environment, it seems to just blow through things and leave beautiful flavors with not a lot of aging necessary. If you live in a colder climate than Florida, D47 is very similar. It's almost like they're counterparts to each other for different climates. That said, most yeasts, wine yeasts, are going to work for this recipe. Now, when I say work, they all do essentially the same thing. They're going to ferment it into a mead. They will all have their slight idiosyncrasies and maybe slight flavor differences, but at the end of the day, they will all do essentially the same job. But we like this one because it has actually low nutrient needs. It's really good with malic acid, like for apple brews and things like that. It's really, really good. And it works great for fruity brews. It maintains their color, which that's important for this one, but it also keeps their fruitiness. It makes them almost a slightly fresher flavor. And don't forget to...
The whack, your packet.
Oh, wow. She's wearing a shirt and everything today. Had to throw the hair back.
Yeah.
Wow. That was...
Dramatic.
Yeah. Pulling out all the stops, folks, you know? Got to get that production value up. Speaking of production value, I wonder if this is one of those brews that will be doing the finishing of it in the new studio.
Might be.
I'm afraid to actually do this at this point, but I'm going to. I'm just going to use the spoon end and poke some of the fruit down because there's yeast floating on top of it. You know, I didn't think ahead. I should have done something slightly differently, but it's okay. It's fine. It's good.
It's great.
No, there's no harm in this. I just don't want the yeast sitting dry.
Get those guys over there. Over there. Over here. Right there. I'm helping you.
You do that really, really well.
I don't know.
That has come up many times.
Carol Gain is way cuter than I am.
People always guess the wrong movie. I'll just tell you, it's Transylvania 6-5000. Somebody argued with me about it. I was like, trust me, we watched it like the night before we did it.
We watched it like 3 times a year at least.
Yeah, I love that movie. It's great. Anyway. Okay, so what's next?
A lid and airlock.
That's your job. All right, so the only real issue that I have with plastic buckets is if you don't hear that snap, your seal is crap. And even with that, sometimes they don't seal perfectly well. But what's the purpose of all of this at the top anyway?
It's to keep bugs out and let the gas escape.
Right. So at this point, with an airlock, in here, gas can escape.
And bugs can't get in.
I don't see bugs getting through there. So it's not a problem. Now, when you're using something that you cannot see through, well, now you have to guess as to when to take your first reading. And people ask this all the time. And they even say, like, how do I know if it's done if I don't have a hydrometer? Well, patience. Just wait longer than you think it should be. This should probably take 2 to 3 weeks to ferment. So if you're not sure, wait 4. It doesn't matter.
And that reason of why we can't see this particular bucket is why we really prefer North Mountain Supply's 2-gallon bucket, but we're using that for a different brew.
Right. Yeah, and we wanted a 2-gallon bucket to get a 1-gallon batch out of this because it's filled to about here. With any foaming action and fermentation bubbling and stuff, we didn't want it to overflow.
Yeah.
And we're starting to really appreciate the larger vessel to start and move down. Head space in primary does not matter. We could use a 5-gallon bucket to make this batch, and it would be totally fine.
It'd be kind of silly and
It'd be ridiculous.
wasteful.
And, you know, I've seen it done. I know it happens. It's wasteful. So that's why we don't do it.
And wasteful by space.
Yeah, it's a waste of space. Could have made a 4-gallon batch in there and had only one, whatever. You know what I'm talking about. So this is going to go sit in the ferment station or probably on the floor in front of the ferment station. And we'll see in a few weeks once it looks like it might be starting to slow down or finish. It's been 2 weeks, so let's take a look inside. Okay, first is we probably should have shaken this up more. I know I gave it like 1 shake. Have you shaken it at all?
I don't recall.
See, this is what you don't want. You want the fruit to be wet and submerged. You don't want it sticking out like that. Now, that is something to be concerned about. What we're looking for now is to see, is there any actual mold? I don't see any, but I kind of want to get this off the fruit now.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
I kind of want to get a bowl and our slotted spoon, and I want to sanitize the slotted spoon and very carefully scoop some of those strawberries out before we...
I have an easier way.
Okay.
We already have this in here.
Yeah, and it's filled with hibiscus.
Oh, good point. We could take it out, clean it out, and then we can rack through that.
Okay, if you want to do that.
Yeah. So the rumble jar is already in here, and all we have to do is remove that, clean it out, and then we'll put it back in so that we can safely rack this right off that fruit. I'm just going to kind of nestle it back down in there carefully because I don't want to disturb too much of the leaves. But as you can see, right through the middle there, it's totally clear. So we can drop an auto siphon down in the bottom, go all the way to the bottom of this container, and it's totally fine. I'm even going to take the cap off.
It's just crazy.
I know, right? And all the way to the bottom. This is just the best way to
Yeah,
to
we
rack
find
things.
this works so much better than trying to have cheesecloth wrapped around because it gives a wider area for the juice to flow without getting particulates in the way.
Now, they do clog, so you could get some on the outside. But I also want to point out, people have thought that you can rack through cheesecloth or rack through something like this, and you're getting rid of the leaves. No, you're not. You're stopping the big particles. That's it. The smaller stuff, the microscopic stuff, is still going right through that. And that's fine, because I don't care about that stuff in the first racking. That doesn't really matter to me. And it'll fall out of suspension. It'll be fine. It'll be great. I don't know where I got that from. That's from a movie or something.
Yeah, we both do it, but we do it so often that I think it's...
It's like a Scottish guy saying that. I don't know. And I don't do a Scottish accent very well. All right, so we've racked it already because I just wasn't liking the look of that fruit, and because we abused it a little bit. Just nothing dangerous, but better safe than sorry.
But this is a beautiful illustration of why it's always a good idea to have an extra vessel nearby when you're racking, because we didn't know exactly how much we had. We obviously had more than a full gallon in that bucket. So, pitcher to the rescue. We were able to save quite a lot.
It ain't floating. Now, normally I would have taken a reading before racking it. You are correct. That is definitely the best practice in most cases, but I knew I was going to rack it regardless today, so that's why I wasn't overly concerned. I'm even less concerned after taking the reading.
So we were trying to understand and plan what we were going to do with that additional amount because we knew we had this under airlock. Brian was trying to figure out what kind of vessel could we have and still have it under airlock. And I said, well, we haven't taken a reading. Let's take a reading. He's like, oh, but I need to do this. And I'm like, let's take a reading. And then we can decide, well, it's probably going to ferment more. And I'm like, let's take a reading.
She's right. It's 0.994.
And this is why we stress not only to each other, but to you as well, to take readings, because that's really going to give you some important information that will help you make better decisions.
So what we're going to end up doing is this is a container of it now. And the rest, I have about 24 ounces or so, which is almost exactly a 750 ml bottle. And what we're going to do, we're going to clean this bottle up, sanitize it, and I'm going to put the remainder into this bottle, but I won't seal it. I'm just going to do like that.
You can also put it in the refrigerator if that makes them feel helpful, because any possible fermentation will be slow.
I don't think there's going to be any more fermentation. This is at 0.994. But my reasoning for keeping both is, well, A, you don't want to waste any, but B, it's almost a full bottle. When we rack this, there's going to be more sediment at the bottom. So this will be less than a gallon. So that means I can add some from this into there at that time, making back to a full gallon. You see? So this would be like our lost vessel, if you will. We've never done this before, so this is a whole different thing.
Yep.
Because usually we don't have that much extra at the end. Like we have this much and we just put it in a glass and drink it later, you know, that kind of thing. But this is almost a full bottle. It's a little much to just, you know, consume that fast.
And because we have a rubber gasket on the top of this, it is going to create enough of a barrier for gas to escape and bugs not to go in.
Bloop, bloop. See?
But because it's a loose vessel and we have so many cats, I cannot, in good faith, leave this out and about. I'm going to have to make sure it has a concealed environment, aka a cabinet with a door that cats can't open.
Yeah. But before we fill that bottle, one thing I'd like to do is, using the calculator teacher said I would never have handy, let's find out how much alcohol we made. 1.092 minus 0.994 times 131.25, 12.86%. I'm going to just round that to 13. I don't normally round up, but in this case, it's alcohol, doesn't matter. 13%.
Not too shabby.
No, I have no worries about this. We need, you know what? We're going to sanitize the bottle and fill this up and put it all away, and we'll see it another week. Okay, it's been 3 weeks, and yes, we are in our new temporary studio with the shelves. But
we stand now, so you can see the actual height difference between the two of us.
Yeah, because when we sit, I'm actually often shorter than you because I slouch. Anyway, so we took a reading on this. It was 0.994 last time, and we racked it. That's why there's an extra bottle here. But today, we're going to take another reading on it, and we're going to rack it again. And there's reasons for that. It's because, you probably can't see it, but there is a little bit of lees in the bottom of this fermenter.
Actually be able to see it better in the bottle because it's a smaller volume.
So yeah, you can see it in the bottle a little bit. There's some lees in the bottom there. It's a little easier to see. The rest of it is actually quite clear. That's the label you're seeing right in the middle. Yeah, other than that, looks pretty good. But we need to find out, is it done fermenting? It probably is done fermenting.
It should be.
I mean, if it moved, that's pretty impressive because usually 0.994, they don't go much further.
But because it has been 3 weeks, if it was going to move, it'll be telling us now.
And pardon for any awkwardness or weirdness, this is like the first time really shooting this way in a long, long, long time. So, you know, whoa, see? I get distracted and talking about stuff. It's actually quite gassy. That's kind of surprising after all this time. But it is still 0.994, as expected. It didn't go down. It didn't go up either, because that would be weird. I'm going to pour the sample right into our pitcher. By the way, if you don't have one of these pitchers yet, I recommend getting one. I make the joke that every time I mention the pitcher, somebody in the comments tells us how great it is. But it's true, because every time I talk about the pitcher, somebody really does. And if you use any of the links that we provide in the descriptions of our videos, it doesn't cost you anything extra, but it helps support the channel. And that way we can keep bringing content like this to you.
So this is our first time racking in our new setup, so I don't have a lap.
Nope, you don't. But you know what? You're going to put it on the floor.
Well,
you're going to hold this until it... Yeah, we're going to make this work. We'll figure it out. This is like news in the making here, folks. History in the making.
History in the making.
All right, so I get it started.
You certainly have enough boxes. I could just bring a box over here.
Yeah, could do that. Go get a box.
Get a box? I'm getting a box.
Okay, get a box.
Or should I just bring the stool?
The stool works. We have a stool. It's holding the pitcher. You can't see it anymore, sorry. But actually, they couldn't see it when it was in your lap anyway.
No.
So it's the same. See, no difference at all. But yeah, we are racking it again because I want to get it off that little bit of lees in the bottom. Now, an interesting thing is we have that extra bottle over there that we'll either consume as is, or we might end up using it to replace some of the left behind that was from the lees, you know, the waste. So it's all going to get used in some way or another. By the way, this smells nice.
It does.
I have high hopes for this now. Using the calculator teacher said I would never have handy, it was literally right there in my pocket. I'm going to calculate the ABV for you. And we just use a very simple formula for it. It is original gravity, which is, or your starting gravity, whichever way you want to say it, 1.092, minus our final gravity, which was 0.994, means we used 98 points. So I already know approximately what this is going to be, but we multiply that number by 131.25, and we get 12.86%. Now I know we're going to be adding some honey to this, we're going to dilute it a little bit, so I usually just err on the side of caution. We'll just say 12%. And I know I did that math once before, and we called it 13%. I don't know why I rounded up. That's just dumb. We never round up. Always round down, that way you know it's at least that. Right? Makes more sense.
Brian just proved that he's human.
Don't insult me like that.
All right, it is time.
Oh yeah, we have to taste it before we can start making augmentations to it.
It might be perfect just the way it is. We have no idea.
I'm going to doubt that. I usually don't like things that are 0.994.
This is true.
I will let you go first.
It's a beautiful color. It's got
it is actually really nice
a little
looking.
bit of youth on the aroma, but still strawberry.
This is just a little over 4 weeks today. Or no, 8 weeks. We started this May 14th, today's June 16th, so no, 4 weeks.
Okay.
Do I even want to taste this? I'll take one for the team.
I already did.
Okay.
It's got bones.
I was just going to say, the bones are there.
It's got bones.
But it's super dry.
It needs a lot of honey.
Wow, there's a big hawk that just landed on the fence in our backyard.
Oh, wow.
I mean, like, big.
That's so cool.
You just don't see that in St. Petersburg, you know? But anyway. Okay, so, honey, we just happen to have some.
Yes, darling.
Ha, 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 ha. Just happen to have some right there.
Now, we used our Kirkland Wildflower initially, so that's what we're going to use to back sweeten with.
I licked it.
That's right.
Okay.
Can I put those
You
away?
can throw that away.
Awesome.
Being that this was like uncomfortably dry, probably gonna need a decent amount of sweetening for this. Hibiscus, I love hibiscus, but I also like it when it's really sweet. There's actually little bubbles coming up
Yep.
out of concentration here. So
I can't believe it's still that gassy.
yeah, that's kind of nuts.
But
This is not as old though as you think. Like I
Sure.
keep thinking this is 8 weeks. Nope, we just happened to leave it for like 3 weeks since the last time we looked at it. But it was only started like a week and a half before that. So.
I'm not concerned about that gas because we're going to be stirring it to mix in our adjustment ingredients, and that will help degas it.
And to stir it in, I'm going to be using the spattle. It's a spoon, it's a paddle, it's both. Get yours in the description below. And yes, I named it. And yes, I'm very proud. When you are doing this, I'm degassing it at the same time. So be careful. You do not want to introduce oxygen, but you do want to mix things thoroughly because see, like that clump of honey, that's not going to get mixed in. You're not going to taste that when you do your taste adjustment stuff. It's not a good thing. All right, I believe we are mixed enough now that we can take another taste of this.
All right.
Look clean to you?
It does.
Okay. Always have a second opinion on how much mixing you've done. I'm kidding. I didn't smell it the first time, so I don't know what it smelled like before.
It smells more honey.
Good, because it's mead, you know, it should. And we just added honey to it. Did that improve it? Degassing it may also improve it.
Yeah. It still needs more, but it's headed in the right direction.
Needs a little thickness too. Like it's kind of watery, which sometimes adding honey will increase the viscosity and make the mouth feel a little bit more thick. Other times we might have to make other adjustments, and we'll have to play that by ear. See. But it does have an interesting flavor already. The hibiscus strawberry is really coming through nicely. I like it. And again, we mix and we retaste. Now, you might be thinking, you know, this is kind of redundant and you guys do this a lot and it takes a lot of time. But here's an upside to it. You get to drink it as you're going first, which as a home brewer, that's kind of a big plus.
Also, you want your end product to taste as good as it possibly can, don't
Exactly.
you?
I see a lot of recipes where people just put in X amount, and there's nothing wrong with that inherently, but I like to flavor to taste. So we're sweetening to taste, which means our taste. Your taste may be slightly different. We give you the guideline of what we're doing. We'll give you a final gravity when we're done, but that way you can adjust it to your own tastes.
So this is doing something very interesting to me now. I'm wondering if it's going to do it for you as well.
It's more hibiscus now.
I get sweetness and strawberry,
Yeah.
and then the hibiscus comes in much later,
Yeah.
but very aggressively.
Okay, let me see if that's what I'm getting again, because I didn't catch that the first time. It's much more pleasant now.
Oh yeah, I enjoy it, and I love that travel and then a little extended travel because it's like sweet strawberry, and then hibiscus.
Yeah, definitely more hibiscus towards the end. That slight bitterness. It's like crisp at the end.
Yes, it's crisp.
I think it needs a little bit more sweetness. I also think it needs some wine tannin.
Okay.
I think it needs a little bit. I'll explain that more in a minute. This has been coming up lately where people are asking, how do I know what to add or how to make adjustments? And okay, it's possible we didn't cover that. So we're gonna talk about that a little bit.
Part of that is learned through experience and really taking the time to taste things, whether it's things you've made or things that you can get commercially.
Yeah.
And try to decipher what is going on in the palate and what notes you're getting and what might be missing.
We had a huge advantage with that with whiskey, and we used to watch the Whiskey Tribe, the Whiskey Vault actually is what we watched with Dan and Rex, and I learned a lot about tasting things from them, but we had already kind of been foodies and that sort of thing already, so we had a basis of it, and that just kind of expanded it and really made you think, because You might think, oh, it's whiskey, they all taste the same. They don't, but they're all in the same realm, if you will, except for Scotch.
And that was a good point that you brought up is Brian and I, we would go to restaurants and we would kind of play this little game of trying to figure out and decode a recipe of whatever dish we were eating.
So I could recreate it.
Basically. But it was like, oh, is that thyme? Is that base? You know, and so
we were already used to analyzing.
Tweaking things and really thinking about the different flavor notes and how they're reacting with each other. And I think that really helped us graduate to now as
well. When we started doing whiskey, you had basically a limited number of flavors, and like a bourbon, for example. Bourbon has this much scope, okay? And I'm not being insulting, it's bourbon. There's limitations on what it can be. So a bourbon goes from here to here in range, where mead could be like, 50 feet that way to 1,000 miles that way and still be mead. Bourbon's a much narrower range, but within that range, you can get spicy, sweet, sour, bitter. You can get all sorts of flavors in there. Everything from vanilla and cinnamon to even some things have a little bit of almost a licorice and a spiciness. So there's a lot of flavors and they're not in the actual bourbon. So you have to experience them and your brain fills in the gaps and you know that, okay, that's what that tastes like. To the point that I think we did it one time. We did like 5 bourbons set up and it was a blind taste test. I named every one of them. I knew what was what, just from the flavors of them. And that's just something that comes with experience. I don't think I could do that today. I don't drink bourbon like I used to. Yeah. But that kind of ability to discern flavors is something you learn. It just takes time. And once you start to do that, you'll go, okay, now I know what tannin does. Now I know what sweetness does. And different things that you sweeten with will do different things. Like honey is going to add a viscosity as well as sweetness, as well as a little bit of floral, and depending on the honey you use, other various flavors. Whereas white sugar can add a little bit to viscosity. Sweetness does add to viscosity, but it's mostly just going to add sweetness.
I know there's plenty of our viewers who don't really want to get that deep into the experience.
That's why we have a different channel just for tastings.
Where they don't want to discern all those nuances. They just want to, is it good or is it bad?
Right.
And I can appreciate that. But if you're on the almost good, almost bad fence, having a little bit of that background knowledge in order to push it in the right direction is really going to benefit you.
Right. So being a little discerning about what the flavors are and how to get certain flavors can help you to become a better brewer. It's that simple. How is it?
I like that. I feel like
it's a good sweetness.
I feel like the hibiscus tea is creating a tannic-like
Oh yeah, it does.
sensation.
It totally does. That's tannins that hibiscus does.
So I don't know if adding wine tannins is really the right direction. Do you still feel like that's what you want?
Yeah, it's still a little bit on the watery side for me. I'd like it to be a little bit more. Okay. If we had hibiscus tea pre-made, I would say add more of that, but I'm afraid of the flavor balance now because we have a beautiful hibiscus to strawberry ratio. Yeah. If we add more hibiscus, we'd get more tannins, but we'd also change that relationship between them. Right now, actually, I think the honey to hibiscus to strawberry ratio is beautiful. Okay. But I'd like a little bit more, like something that makes me feel like there's something in my mouth and it doesn't just like go in and gone really, really fast. So that's where wine tannin comes in. And we're just using powdered wine tannin from North Mountain Supply. We'll have links to this in the description. And what this is literally like a piece of oak that's been charred, ground up.
Question.
Yes.
We won't be able to taste this right away because it's going to do its thing. Do you want to take a gravity reading before adding that because it's glumpy?
Yeah, we can do that.
Get our sweetness level?
Sure. Okay. We can do that. It doesn't matter all that much, but because it's clumpy, it could make a mess. Better safe than sorry. So I have to guess now. I'm going to guess 1.022. I think that's what we sweetened to, 1.022. But my tastes are probably off because the last 2 to 3 weeks have been chaos for us.
Yeah.
Not that far off, 1.024. And 1.026. Okay, I'll take that. Being 4 points off, not too bad. Honey. Oh, you know what? I'm afraid of knocking this over. This table is awful, okay?
If you hear little creaky noises,
yeah.
it's
See that? See, it's just bad. And I'm clumsy enough already, and this is all new setup and stuff. Yeah. But 1.026, that puts this squarely in the sweet range. To some people that might be too much, and you can always do less than we do. You can always do more than we do. But I think the bitterness of hibiscus really needs some of that. And strawberry doesn't taste like strawberry to me unless it's like sweet. So they say 1/4 to 1/2 teaspoon per gallon. I'm just gonna do, it's like slightly less than 1/2 teaspoon. Yeah. Now, as Derica said, we can't taste this right away. So what I want to do is just kind of mix this through a little bit. It's clumpy and gloopy and gloppy. It's like the Itchy and Scratchy show. That's what it reminds me of. Somebody said it's their favorite show. They have episodes and they like went off and gave me titles and stuff. I thought that was funny.
All right, so at this point, because we back sweetened with honey, we need to pasteurize.
Yes.
We're not going to pasteurize in our pitcher.
No, that would be bad.
To rack this into a glass, 1 gallon, like we had before, and then we're going to pasteurize that. We have a full video on our full gallon pasteurization method. I'll make sure to link that in the description below if you're unfamiliar.
But brief synopsis. Bring the internal temperature of the liquid to 140 degrees Fahrenheit for 22 minutes. Yes, we leave an airlock on it. No, you don't have to. No, you're really not going to lose any alcohol by doing this. And also, no, you're not going to significantly change the flavors in the brew. Now, someone's going to ask, what are we going to do with that? I'm going to drink it.
Because with our additions, we're up to...
Yeah, this is a full gallon now, so we probably won't need it. So, yeah, Derica will just enjoy that. Put it over ice or something. Even dry, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
But if you let that sit for a few months, I bet you it would be even better.
And that's what I'll do.
But anyway, we're going to do that. Let this sit for another week, and we'll be back with the final tasting. Okay, so we pasteurized it, and it's been sitting for a week. Let's find out how it tastes. We didn't check our microphones.
Check, check, check.
Yep,
Check,
they're both working. Okay. Now, we say this often, but we may not explain it very well. At this point, we will taste this and we'll put a score on it. And then it's going to sit for several months before we bottle it to let anything else that's in there fall out of suspension. And it just makes for a much cleaner brew, we find. And then a year from now, roughly a year from today, we will be doing a tasting on the Tasting Room channel. If you haven't seen that yet, that's where all of our one-year tastings and us drinking random stuff that people have suggested that is from the commercial world.
The good, the bad, the ugly.
Yep.
But this is not ugly. This is actually beautiful.
No, it's actually really, really nice. It looks like almost a golden tea color. I like it.
It's a reddish orange.
Yeah, that looks really good.
Almost burnt sienna.
Nice and clear too. Very clear. Like it's got a good color, but it's very clear as well.
Oh.
On the smell,
the strawberry and the hibiscus are playing lovely together.
Oh yeah, smell a little bit of honey.
Yeah.
Definitely smell the strawberry. Hibiscus is like just on the back end of the strawberry.
Yeah,
they play well
together. The little
together.
floral citrus, which goes perfect with the strawberry. This is fantastic.
You ready? This is sweetened to 1.026, so it's on the sweet side, but I wouldn't call it like dessert sweet. It's a comfortably sweet flavor. But I think the astringency of the hibiscus and strawberry to some extent really needs that sweetness. We say this all the time. Sweetness is relative to what it is. A 1.026 on this would be very different than a 1.026 on, say, just a traditional mead, or even something with like a really sweet fruit, like a peach or a banana.
What I'm loving about this is on the flavor profile, right up front, I'm getting almost an equal combination of honey and strawberry. The hibiscus kind of comes in later, but I'm getting that juicy sweetness of a strawberry plus the honey notes right up front.
Juicy sweetness. That's a good point. It is actually juicy, but it's also got a good viscosity in the mouth. It doesn't feel thin. There's lingering everything. So like there's a good amount of tannins here. Just everything about this, it's actually very well balanced.
It
really,
is.
really nicely mixed.
Go team.
Even the acid level, like the brightness of it, is just perfect for the amount of sweetness.
I'm checking our notes, I'm cheating, and I see from the very beginning we added the pectic enzyme, and I think that really helps do what it's supposed to do, get more of that color and those flavors from the fruit extracted at the very beginning. And
I think that's probably, in our opinion now, the best time to use pectic enzyme. We have used it for clearing later, and you need twice as much later on. But when you're using whole fruit, it's probably a really good idea to just add that. I mean, we used a half a teaspoon of pectic enzyme.
Yeah.
Now, does that make or break the brew? I don't think so. I think it just makes a good brew even that little bit better.
Little edge.
Whatever score we give this, it might have given it half a point over what it could have been without it. That's the easiest way to describe it. But I need more. Do you need more?
I do.
I know we have a few tastings to do today. Can you hold the airlock, please?
I can.
But this is good. And I want to give a little better assessment of the flavors because I feel like we kind of glossed over it. Oh, it's also about 12% ABV. We always round down on that because when we sweeten it, dilutes it a little bit. So it's probably right around 12. Yeah, I can't get over the color. It's got the strawberry shortcake red. That's what it is. The dolls. When my sister was little, that strawberry shortcake was everything. And this has a little bit of that smell.
A little bit, but I think the hibiscus.
One of my mustache hairs is like going up my nose. That's the most annoying thing. I know people get mad at me because I touch my face during the video when that happens, but we're drinking stuff. Come on.
Do you never touch your face?
Yeah. What do you do? Tie your hands behind your back?
Anyway, the flavor of this, I'm getting the nice balance of strawberry and honey at the front. Mm-hmm. What else can you give us?
I get the perfect level of acidity and sweetness together. They hold in your mouth really nicely. I almost want to say, like, it's kind of weird, but there's almost a vanilla flavor there. Almost, not quite. Almost creamy.
Yes, creamy.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yes, not vanilla, but creamy. I do agree with that.
It's like strawberries and cream, but not really. It's very, very faint creaminess. Yeah. But there is definitely some.
It has a softness sensation on the palate.
That's what you mean by softness when you say that.
Yeah. And then when you swallow, it seems like the tannins really
that's when they kick in.
Are in the back end, and it gives that kind of crisp, drying thing going on.
Nice.
It's nice. It just makes you want more.
So at this point on your screen, you should be seeing our scorecard. We have one correction to make. It actually does go from 0 to 11 now because we did expand that score on the low end just recently. But that was on the tasting room, actually. Anyway, do you have a number for this?
I do.
I am torn between two numbers. I'm going to give one of them and then explain. All right, you ready?
Yes.
1, 2, 3, 8.5. It's torn between 8.5 and 9.
Wow.
Now, I don't know if you've noticed, but recently I've been a lot more critical with my scoring. I think this is actually really, really good.
It is really, really good. And I can imagine serving this on ice as well.
Yeah, we do everything, all of our tastings at room temperature, which in our house is something around 75 degrees Fahrenheit. So that gives a certain expectation for everything that we do. Chilled, I think this would be even better. I honestly think this would have been awesome carbonated.
Oh.
As a sparkling wine or mead, this would be fantastic. Now, if you've gotten this far and you want to do it, you totally can. You just have to put it into a keg and you have to pressure carb it. That's the only difference there. It would be a whole other video if we were to do a natural carbonation on this.
Yeah.
But as of this point right now, you could do that. I don't think we need to for this, but you can.
There's options.
Right.
This is great as is, but it does lend itself to the carbonation process on the palate.
Now, something that we don't talk about enough in each video, people ask all the time, how long does this last at room temperature? Like this is right now with an airlock on it, with Star Sand solution mixed up to the manufacturer's specs, this will last years as it is right now.
You just want to keep an eye on the airlock.
Make sure your
that
airlock
doesn't dry out.
Right. As long as the airlock stays full, it'll last years. Once we let this go for a few months and put it into bottles, again, years, as long as those bottles are sealed properly. If we don't seal the bottles or there's a crack or air leak or something like that, that changes everything. But under good conditions, these things last years at room temperature. A lot of people seem to think that you have to put this in the fridge for it to last. Not true at all. Totally fine. We have done this for a long, long time and never had to refrigerate something to make it last. Even things that we thought shouldn't last that long, like beers and ciders and low ABV stuff, when they're bottled up properly, they work just fine for months and even years. We have a whole bunch of stuff that we found because we moved that was much older than I expected, and it was totally fine. Just all good. But anyway, as always, guys, thanks so much for watching and have a great day.
Bye-bye.